what a goal.
That is absolutely superb.
Annika Leslie, the poster child of Halifax City Soccer and the national team. How are you?
I'm doing okay. You
Yeah.
know, it's weird times, but
Yeah, you're back home?
yeah, it's really nice to be back home, actually. I mean, not under the best circumstances, but it's always nice to come see my family.
Yeah, I'm sure with obviously what's going on now with the pandemic, I'm sure you'd much rather be at home than maybe be in Ontario stuck there, right?
Yeah, my dad helps me. He comes out and does touches with me, and my mom comes on runs with me. So it's
Oh,
nice to have a little bit of company with that.
good. Being good parents as always.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, they're always super supportive.
Good. Well, listen, we're going to go through your story a little bit. The reason I wanted to do this was, well, first of all, I think it's important to hear from somebody like yourself who's done some great things, and I'm sure is going to continue to do really great things. But, you know, your story is no different to probably every single child that starts playing soccer. And I think people don't realize that. They think that, you know, you've had this unique experience, which has given you the opportunities that it's given you. But I want you to take us through it. So I think let's start where you are today, the present. You were in Halifax City, and then you went to Rex in Nova Scotia, in the centre there, and then you did obviously very well by going to the national team at U15, which was unbelievable. We were super proud of you for that. And then from there, you were identified to be moved to the Super Centre in Ontario. So how's that transition going? You know, as a Nova Scotia girl, leaving your friends, your family, your school, going out to Ontario, how was that?
Well, I'm actually really happy with the decision I made. I felt like it was the right step for me to take. As far as soccer goes, I think it was a really good decision. It's definitely like a step up as far as like intensity. Just overall, it's like I'm much more like immersed with the Super Rex.
Right.
But I felt like the change of pace was actually really good, and I felt like I was ready for that sort of change at that point.
Right.
The hardest part was actually like the social side. So I have like a really close bond with my friends and family, and so that was like the toughest part of my decision.
Right.
I felt like I was ready on the soccer side, but I don't know. I didn't think I was going to leave home for more years, so it's definitely difficult to adjust living with like a new family in a new place.
Yeah.
But
No,
I thought overall it was good.
it's a huge move, and it takes great courage and sacrifice to do that. So take us through that, just that moment where you came to the conclusion that, you know, socially you're going to have to give this up. You knew it was the right step for you, because that is very important as a 15-year-old girl at the time, you know, leaving your friends and family to go and meet basically new friends and family. When was the moment that you knew?
Well, I had been invited into the Rex around November of, I guess, 2018.
Yep.
Just to like go in and train. And at that time they hadn't used the words like trial, or I don't know, anything about a tryout or evaluating my sort of skills or anything. So I went in there with just like mindset to just have like a week of training with like new people. And I came back and I was just like, okay, that was cool. I'm back here now. Like, it's great. And then like sort of went on, and I sort of started hearing like coaches were like you don't need to rush into a decision, or like don't think too hard about it. And I hadn't even like crossed my mind that moving provinces to change rec centers would have been sort of like an option in the pathway. I didn't think that was something that was really done. I know Vancouver had done it in the past with their Whitecaps, but Ontario has like a fairly new rec center. So no one from Nova Scotia had gone to Ontario before. And so it was sort of like, I'm not really sure at what point in the year, but like early spring, and I was sort of actually seriously considering it. And, you know, for a long time, I thought I wouldn't do it. Just, I couldn't picture like leaving. I actually forget friends and family. I also just really love Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
I love Halifax, and I don't know. I really love it here. But I decided that if I'd wanted to continue on my like pathway with the national team, keeping going to camps and stuff like CONCACAF, as well as the university process, actually, I'll talk about that later, one of my goals. But I thought I would have better opportunities to be seen and train in that environment in Ontario. So ultimately, I was like, okay, it's going to be tough, but like, I think I'll be frustrated with myself if I don't take this opportunity. I mean,
yeah, no, it's good for you. Good for you. And how is because obviously you've left your social group and you've got a new social group. How is that social group done with making you feel at home and safe? How's that gone?
The Ontario Rex girls, I love them. I love the team. There's no like social. I know some teams you can have like social cliques, especially with Rex, when you've got like a broad like age range.
Right.
You know, some people are in grade 9, some people are in grade 12. Like naturally, there's going to be social divides, but I love it there. There's no one I can't talk to. Like there's great like team chemistry. And so especially at the Ontario Rex, 90% of the girls go to the high school, the same high school. So like I have friends at the school. Soccer's great. Like really, I love the team. So
that's excellent. So really that the fact that the education and the sport being integrated just has made it so much easier because you've got the same social group as, you know, at sport, but at school as well.
Yeah, it's made it really easy.
Awesome. Well, I know for me, when I was in Ontario, I can't even remember what it was now, end of summer, so yeah, maybe early fall, and I was on a pilot course with Canada Soccer, and I know just seeing a familiar face. So I was the only Nova Scotian. There was all Ontario coaches. Just seeing a familiar face made even me feel comfortable because, you know, you're in that setting and you're running a session for your peers, and you know, like anything, you know, people are judging what you're doing. So it was good to see a familiar face and go, okay, that actually helped me calm down. So I never did say thank you, but you definitely helped me.
Yeah, I was super happy to see you as well. Like, I mean, yeah, as I said, like, always happy to see someone from home. Like, yeah, familiar face.
Good. Well, listen, let's go back then. We're obviously in the present. Let's go back to the past. Tell us your story. Like when you start, like tell us when what age were you when you registered, your whole mini experience, and you know, how did you become, I guess, so motivated and passionate about the sport as a little grassroots Tim Hortons top player?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like my decision to start, as like most little kids, usually their parents just like put them in. So it was the same for me. I was probably like 6, and I started with like the Halifax State Timbits. It was like Patrick at the time.
Right.
And I had my like color, it was like purple or something. I don't know, I've always been drawn to team sports. Like I like, I don't know, like teamwork and just working together. And for some reason, like I just like loved going. I was always excited to go to practice, and like I've tried like other sports, like I did gymnastics and I've done cross country, but like it's always been soccer. Like ever since I was 5, there's never a time where I like was like, I don't know. I don't know what about it is, but like always been super excited.
I mean, Patrick's quite got a very good reputation about, you know, minis and running programs. What was it? The environment? Can you remember the environment? Was it fun? Was it active? What can you remember?
It was definitely really fun. Like I remember we'd play like little games, so like little scrimmages. I don't know, it was like 4v4, and then he'd blow his air horn and we'd like rotate. It was just like, it was fun because it was just like quick. Like we weren't at one place for too long. We were always moving, and then we'd have like touches on the ball, and everyone just, there was just everyone's participating at the time. There's no sitting out or anything like that.
That's great. So, I mean, I hear, you know, games, I hear, you know, short attention span, get kind of games, community type feel. I mean, obviously you said already you like the socialization side of things. That's great. So, you know, you said you love it, and, you know, you're going through 6, you know, take us through the next phases. So you've gone through the mini grassroots, and then what happened?
Well, at some point I think a coach approached my mom, and the coach was like, maybe you'd want to try out for like a competitive team. Like, she seems to really like enjoy it. And my parents didn't know that this was an option, and I didn't really know what it was either. So we were just like, okay. So she like registered me and had a tryout. And so ever since like, I think it started like under 8, and then I just kept with that until under 12. I was with the City Selects team with like various coaches up until probably under 12, when that started, like the provincial route started to happen.
Right.
And then it changed a bit with Rex, because obviously club and Rex you don't play both. So that's probably when my club ended. It was around age 13 or so.
Right. Were you naturally ahead of your peers with soccer at say 8 and 9?
I would say like maybe earlier. Sometimes Patrick would say, okay, try to use your right foot instead. But I mean, people like develop at different rates. And as I went on, like different kids would like start to show their talent at different points. And there's definitely some ages where I felt like I was doing really well. And then other times I was like trying to keep up, like, as it is with kids, like they go through different stages. So there was some times where I felt like I was really like doing really well, and naturally other times I was.
I'm just curious. Obviously, when you went through the system, we did start to do competitive, trial-based programs quite early, and we're moving away from that. Did you, when you were in that experience, did you ever feel the pressure of being on those teams at that young of an age?
I personally, my mom's really competitive.
Right.
And I think she's passed it on to me. I didn't ever feel super stressed about that, but I know I had teammates who maybe got like too focused on results, and like at a young age, like results are maybe not the most important thing, but I sort of enjoyed having like a goal.
Right.
But it really just depends. Like, I know some teammates just were too focused on that, and that sort of took away from the soccer, and others found it a fun challenge. So I thought there was like a good mix. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So you obviously say you liked it. What are the main reasons, if you were to sum it up, maybe you have 3, 5, what are the reasons why you wanted to play soccer?
Well, I remember with the provincial team, I think it was my second year, we were required to keep like, not a journal, but after every provincial weekend, we had like a workbook to fill out.
Yeah.
And some of my reasons, well, I have already mentioned like the team aspect. Like, I definitely prefer that over individual sports. I'd said like from very early, my goal had been to be able to go to an American university.
Okay.
To get a really good education, but I can get there with soccer. So it was opportunities as far as education and also travel. I really like to travel, and like I like, even with the provincial team, I know going to Atlantics, it was just to like Newfoundland, but I just really liked like discovering new things and having all these like opportunities that wouldn't otherwise be available to me. So I knew that soccer could like unlock a lot for me.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, travel, people, I think we forget in the journey of a youth player, even if you're traveling with your club team to PEI for an event, or as you did, you went to with the provincial program, you went to Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Like, that experience is looked upon very fondly when you step back and you reflect on that. Like, going to the local ice cream place in PEI after winning the game. That's all fun. Kids remember that stuff. That's important.
Yeah.
Annika, talk to me about your emotions. Now, you may not be able to remember so much as a young player, but what are the emotions you feel when you play soccer? Because you're obviously to leave your friends, to leave your family, to do what you're doing right now. There's got to be something that turns you, like, it switches you on, and it makes you happy, and whatever it is. What do you feel like? What emotions do you go through when you're playing or training?
For games, there's always a little bit of nerves, just because it's like really uncontrollable. You can't predict everything. So there's a little bit of nerves going in, but it's also, that comes with excitement, because like every game's different, and there's like a bunch of new opportunities every time a game goes on to like get better, make mistakes, and then as soon as I get on the field for a game, then it's like focus. Like, so once I get there, like it definitely, something switches, the nerves will fade a little bit, and then I'm really focused. And then my favorite is when the team is like really clicking together. Everybody's on the same page, sort of like quick passes, like up, back, through, that sort of thing. Everyone's just, even if we like lose, just the team playing well as a whole. Yeah, it feels really good to have everyone sort of on the same page.
Yeah, no, and I hear that. I'm hearing that a lot from you right now. It's just like being together and having this understanding as a group rather than just yourself. It's interesting. You said a couple of things around the process, whether you're aware or not. I'm sure you are. That it's about getting better and it's about making mistakes. And where did that come from? Is that from your environment as a coach that's taught to you? Was it through your parents? Like, where's that maturity come from to understand the process?
It comes from, as you said, both parents and coaches. I think my parents have always been supportive without putting pressure on me. So they've never like harped on me for making mistakes. I mean, I think some parents can put a lot of pressure on their kids, and I would get in the car with my parents after a game, and we just talk about it. Like, they talk about like things they thought I could do better, but also just like listen to what I thought. And so that really helps me just be like self-motivated and sort of understand that like not everything's going to go well. And then I think I've been really lucky. I've had a really good set of coaches. Like, I can name just like a lot of coaches, not even like that were my head coaches for my team, but who just really helped my development in a positive way. Like, I've never responded well to like yelling, any of that. They're just a little bit more laid back, but structured enough to give me sort of like a sense of like purpose.
Right. I mean, whether you're the head coach, assistant coach, you're going to interact with each other. I know a lot of the people that you've had that opportunity to interact with, and they are good people. And I think the key to any good coach, and you can obviously tell me if you agree or disagree, Annika, is that it's people first, soccer second, people first. If you can't connect, then it's not going to happen. And I think you've been very fortunate to have those types of people around you. Well, that's good. I mean, I think for any young players or parents listening to you, I mean, you're how old now? 16? Yeah, obviously extremely mature 16-year-old, but there's some key messages for parents, for young players. The process is the most important. You're not going to be a professional player at 16, and if you are, that's going to be an anomaly, which can happen maybe more in the men's game because of the options, but the reality is the process and the journey is still very much ahead of you. You talk about competing. You've said it a couple of times. Your mum's obviously very competitive. You think that's where you've got it from. What is it about competing for you that you like?
Well, I think I sort of mentioned before, just like not knowing what's going to happen. So there's nothing like certain. You can't control everything, and every game's different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I get the competitiveness from my mom, but it feels, I think everybody likes to win. I mean, it's just a great feeling. And especially winning as a team, like everybody's back, like excited, and, you can celebrate at the end. And then if you lose, you still have teammates around you to like pick you up and, help you when you're down. Competing really brings everybody together towards like a common goal.
Yeah.
Which, just unites people together, I think.
So that it's funny you talk about that uncertainty of the game. I mean, I actually can visualize even where the mirrors and etc. were within the bathrooms and the showers. Like, I remember that feeling as well, just that in your pit of your stomach, like it's a butterfly kind of feeling, but you're ready to go, you're nervous. When that whistle's blown, talk me through the first 5 or 10 minutes. How are you feeling those first? Is it immediate as soon as the whistle's blown you're in, or is there a phase of time where you just feel like you're gradually getting in?
I've been told that, or at least from the outside, it looks like I'm a little bit uncertain for the first 5 minutes, depending on the game. Like, if I'm especially nervous, I think it's important for me to like complete my first couple passes, and then like I know I'm a good player and I know I can play.
Yeah.
So I just need to reassure that of myself at the start of a big game. So just, they don't have to be like amazing passes where we, I assist a goal. Just keep the ball,
Yeah.
settle it down, calm it down. I like to play like calm if I can. So just in the first 10 minutes, finding a rhythm. And then from there, just play the game.
Keyword rhythm. I used to always struggle the first 5-10 minutes. I felt like my body just felt fatigued, even though I hadn't even started. And then once I found that rhythm, like there was no fatigue for the rest of the game. It was just you're in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone has their own process. So let me ask you this then, Annika. I mean, you've played at the CONCACAF level, Rex. You played with the boys before you left for Nova Scotia, and you were, arguably man of the match or lady of the match every game. With that, I've lost my chain of thought now. That'll come back to me. We'll go to the next question because that one's I'm going to come back to me. You talk about teammates, you talk about camaraderie, you talk about synergy. What are the best attributes then that you look for in your team when you're looking around the pitch and you're looking at people? What are the attributes that you think, that's a player that I want? Because I think there's going to be young girls listening. I think there's going to be young players, parents listening. Like, what is it that makes a good teammate in soccer? Because there's 11 of you. You're all, and there's probably 5 or 6 of you on the bench as well. What is it that you look for?
Well, like as you said, there's the 11 on the pitch, but there's also the players on the bench, and it's important that you recognize that just because you're on the bench doesn't mean you don't have an important role to play. You need players that can support one another. As I said, no one likes to be yelled at. That's never going to help someone on the field, especially in a game. If you're already feeling like you did poorly and someone's harping on you for it, you might, like, some players could shut down. And I think it's just really important to have teammates you can rely on even when it gets tough, that you can bring each other up. And maybe if I'm having a tough game, but the person next to me, is doing better, they can bring me up. And then maybe the next game they're not doing so well. So it's time for like me to help them out. Like and the players on the bench helping the players on the field, like it takes the whole team. So it's difficult if you've got players that tend to focus on the negative, it has a big impact on the team. So if you have a team that has like just a really positive energy, you guys can like build up together.
So talk to me about that, because when I've been around competitive, high performing teams, there's that level of support, helping each other out through solving problems. But there's also a level of accountability. Like, we're not here to mess around. We're here to, we're in a situation where we're trying to beat them, they're trying to beat us. How's that balance then with, because I hear support, but there also support can come from, no, here's the standard, here's the line. You need to come with us. You're not here. Talk to me about that.
It comes, there's times for both. I mean, it's definitely, you need to keep people accountable because it's another form of support. My coach Brandon once said, I'd rather be stabbed in the belly than in the back. So I'd rather be told up front, someone tell me what I can be doing better, something I could try for next time, rather than just watch me do it. And eventually down the road, like that's going to hurt me later on. So there's that level of support, but also knowing when you can actually help someone out by giving them like sort of like constructive, I don't want to say criticism, just advice. So everyone comes from a different place. Like if you communicate with each other ideas that you have, ultimately everyone will get better. And on a team, like it's not productive to keep hard feelings. You just have to know that everyone wants what's best for you. Yeah. So while it may come off in the game as a little bit harsh, like they're just trying to help you out. And, it's balanced with support. So you have accountability of support, just bring them together. And then you have like a good amount of information, but without bringing others down.
Right. And I'm sure that understanding and set of standards where, you talk about is simply trying to make you better, is probably done through social development off the field, so that, when you're in the heat of battle, if you want to call it, you don't take that personal. They're just trying to make you better, what's in the best interest of the group. Is that the case? Do you work a lot on social development and that camaraderie?
Yeah, it's important to have good team culture, both on and off the field. Like Coach Rian Wilkinson for the youth national team, she says, you're not going to run for someone you don't have a bond with. You need to develop your relationship with your players off the field, so that when you get on the field and times get tough, you have a really strong connection. You're going to want to put in the work for the person to your left and the person to your right.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, it's funny because when I look at teams, provincial teams, club teams, I find this is a real piece of the jigsaw that is sometimes missing. That it's okay to hold someone accountable. You do need to support them through positive reassurance in the moments where it's tough. And I find at times we're very silent for a team sport, particularly in Nova Scotia. We don't seem to pull each other along. Have you noticed a difference just being in the Ontario Super Rex? And that's not putting anyone down here in Nova Scotia. Just, is there a difference in the way that the teams are communicating?
It's definitely something, especially on the girls' side, I see that people tend to stay quiet. I think if there's a part of they don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Right.
They're scared they're going to be wrong in what they say. And I know personally it's taken me a long time to find my voice, and something I continue to work on, trying to find the balance again between support and accountability, and just not being afraid, say something. And if it's wrong, you'll fix it later. It's better to just start talking. And I think even in Ontario, it's something that we talk about all the time. We always talk about how we can improve our communication. Just start talking. It helps to hear someone on your left and your right. Just have them there, so they're there. Whether it's telling them to check their left shoulder or step a little bit or tuck in, keeping everybody communicating keeps everybody on the same page. But it's definitely something that we continue to work on in Ontario as well.
Yeah. So you say you're working on it yourself, and it's been a journey to find your voice. Is there any tips? I mean, maybe there isn't, but is there any tips that you have for any young girls listening, any boys listening? Because I know that it is a common problem where they aren't comfortable to provide that info because they are frightened that they might be wrong. Is there anything that you've gone through?
Just start with little things. So start with, say you're in the midfield, start with your midfield partnership. So just talk to the person in front of you and start with just telling them shift to the left or step up, just little pieces of information. And then as you build, you'll start to be louder and be more confident in the things you're saying. So maybe you can reach to your left winger or your striker and sort of give them more specific information as you go. It doesn't have to be everything. Just start small. If you don't start somewhere, you'll never build it up to
absolutely
specific and loud information.
Yeah, good advice. I did remember. I knew I would. So obviously going back to the question before, you've played at different levels at national team with the boys. How is it important to you, or do you think it's important for the development of players that we give players time to settle into the game, to find that rhythm? I mean, you've been in national team competitions where I'm sure you're extremely nervous. The last thing you want to be doing is coming off the pitch after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because you can never really find that rhythm. As you know, in Nova Scotia and probably in other areas in the province, we have this notion that you're on for 15 and then you come off, and it's very short. They call them shifts, which I wouldn't obviously call them that. We seem to do that. It seems to be a common practice. Whereas, one of the things that I know that I'm trying to encourage is to give players time to settle so that they can find that rhythm. And what's your opinion on that?
Well, it's tough, especially with younger players, since the games are short and, parents want to see their kids play and kids just, they want to keep going. But I think as you get a little bit older, I know personally it takes me a little bit of time to get settled into the game. So if I'm getting subbed off right away, then you sort of lose your rhythm again and it becomes a little bit choppy. And as coming with the rhythm as well is just eventually you're going to be playing longer minutes, and it just
Mm-hmm.
it's more realistic to the game, and starting it early if you can will help you when you do play longer minutes to just be comfortable staying on the pitch for a longer stretch of time.
Let me ask you a question, Annika. If you think about 12-year-old Annika, would you prefer if there was a 50-minute game? Just say it's 50. I think it's actually 70, but just say okay, we'll go 70. So 35-minute halves. Would you prefer to get little shifts in both halves, or play the full half and sit out the second half?
Play a full half, no question.
Yeah.
I like it. Also gives you a very you know how many minutes. So if you say you're going to play for 35 minutes, for example, you give it your all for 35 minutes, and you know that's what you're playing, and you can find your rhythm, stay in the game, work on your bonds with your teammates. Whereas if you're playing little shifts, you never really know when you're going on, coming off. You just have to recalibrate every time you take a shift.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, listen, if there's any coaches listening, parents listening, because I do find it's a hard sell, and I think it comes from hockey. It's go out there, run hard for 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and then you come off and rest. We know that's not how you play the game of soccer. You have to manage your fitness. You have to manage the ball. You let the ball do the running so you can recover. It's a really good message to hear that from you. Let me ask you this. So I've got an abundance of female players in the club at Halifax City. You may know some of them. What do you think it takes to make the next step into a Rex program or a Super Rex program? What are the difference makers that you're noticing being now in the Super Rex in Ontario, and obviously captaining the national team as well, which again, congratulations on.
I think a really big thing that I don't want to say it's overlooked, but people might think it's not as important because it's not necessarily skills related, is just coachability. So being able to listen to a coach and understand that, again, they're trying to help you and make you into the best player they can. So absorb the information and try to apply it, even if it means making mistakes. And that comes with being a good teammate as well. So if you're coachable, it sets a good example. And, coaches want you on their team if you're a good kid. Listen when they're talking, stuff like that. So that would be the off the pitch sort of thing, or sort of not playing. But also at some point, you have to decide that you're sort of dedicating yourself to this. So I feel like people have heard it a lot, sacrifice and stuff. You've got to miss out on things, but just knowing what you need. So if you have a goal, write down the steps you need, and then do what you need to do to reach your goals. Don't rely on other people, or sort of make excuses because, it's different than someone else. Know yourself and know what you need to do to bring yourself to the next level.
So being deliberate, being clear on what it is that you're trying to achieve. Yeah, great advice. With this coachability, one of the things that always stuck out with me when I was observing you was the ownership that you took into your learning. You weren't expecting. You listened to coaches. You very respectful in that manner, but you took it into your own hands. You wanted more information. If you weren't sure, you'd have your little journal and you'd have the videos clipped with you and saying, "I want to talk about this."
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that's important to kind of keep moving up this ladder?
Yeah. So there's times in training where if you're confused, go ask a question. But there's also maybe you've got the opportunity to have a one-on-one with your coach, but they're doing meetings. Bring your notebook, bring things that you think you can improve, and sort of make it a two-way discussion. Don't just sit there and sort of expect the coach to tell you A, B, and C, you need to do this better. I always found it helpful to reflect beforehand about the things that you thought you could improve upon or you could continue doing, and then have a discussion both ways where you guys sort of talk it out and figure it out together.
Cool. Yeah, no, great. So last question. We've talked about the present, the past. Now we're going to talk about the future. Obviously, pending that we can get out of our homes and start training again.
Yeah.
What are your plans? What's the next? You've obviously got your own plan and your steps to get there. What are you aiming for?
Well, CONCACAF would be the first thing. It was set for, I think, April 16th. It has been not canceled, not postponed, just
Limbo.
put on hold for now. They haven't given us a date, but that would hopefully be something I could work towards for two reasons. The first being the Under-17 Women's World Cup in India, which would be probably in October, November of 2020, assuming CONCACAF goes on. Don't know what's happening there, but that would be, I mean, it's a World Cup.
That'd be unbelievable.
I mean, what more can I say? That's my goal. And then another thing with CONCACAF is it's a big scouting environment. So that goes along with the goal I mentioned earlier about sort of U.S. colleges. And I'm talking to some, but it would be just a great opportunity for exposure for them and for them to see me play as well, just to showcase myself.
If you don't feel comfortable, don't have to play your hand. Is there any particular areas and states, schools that you're looking at? You don't have to give. Don't answer.
You.
Okay.
I was talking to Wisconsin yesterday, and I definitely do. I like their program a lot. But I'm not sure.
Julia Burton's in Wisconsin right now.
Yeah. When I visited their campus, she was going to come down, but she was actually moving houses, so she couldn't come see me. But it'd be cool to be close to her as well. One of the coaches that would have been on my list. That
would be fun.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, listen, I want to thank you. I think this has been awesome. Honestly, I think the maturity that you've demonstrated just in itself shows you the type of person that you are. I hope parents, players, coaches are listening and critically listening to what you're saying, because there's so many golden nuggets from you as a player and still a young player, what we can take, I think, best practice from and start to implement. I mean, if I think about the beginning, the mini program needs to be fun. It has to be game-like. It has to be short so that the attention span, it needs to feel like a community. Those are things that we're certainly aspiring to do at the club. As you start to go up the ladder, you want coaches that, are supportive, that allow you the opportunity to kind of make mistakes and understand it's part of the process. You want, what makes you competitive and what makes you feel about soccer and how it's a social sport. These are all wonderful things. And I think we forget about that. Sometimes we get caught up on the scoreboard. One team's won, one team's lost. But soccer really has many, many more assets than that, many more opportunities for us to develop as people first. So you're taking us through a 40-minute journey here, and there's a lot of quality stuff in there. So I want to thank you. I also want to wish you the best of luck with obviously your goal. I will be proud as punch if we get to see you in India playing for Canada at a World Cup. I know many other people, that my colleagues and friends around us here, would be absolutely thrilled to see, and we're all rooting for you. Say hello to your parents for me.
Of course.
All right. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. I thanks for taking the time I've got things to share, so I'm glad I got to sort of talk about it for a bit. I know as a young player, I would like to hear something like this as well. So I hope someone gets something out of this.
Yeah, I think they will for sure. And what we'll do is we'll pop this out maybe today. We'll see what kind of traction it gets, and if it's super popular, which I would. If it's not, then people have lost a huge opportunity. But I'm assuming it's going to be. We'll do another one maybe, and we'll chat about maybe something more specific. But I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No worries. Well, Annika, we'll speak to you later. I'm just going to press stop here, and then I'll also thank you again offline.